Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this podcast series of College to Corporate, Season 2, Episode 3. In this episode, let's dive into the fascinating world of behavioral finance with a special guest, Mr. Sandeep Bagla, who is the CEO of Trust Mutual Funds. He has also been the Vice President of ICICI Securities Primary Dealership and Senior Fund Manager at Reliance Mutual Fund. He has been featured on the CNBC channel multiple times to give his reviews and feedback for the current market. Sir, thank you for sparing some time from your busy schedule to interact with us. I welcome you on behalf of the Corporate Connect Club from IBS Mumbai.
Thank you, Makarand. Thank you for having me on the show. It is always a pleasure to interact with young minds, and always, it's great fun to interact with new ideas, and one always learns a lot from the young people.
Hopefully, we'll have a fruitful podcast today, which will definitely help not only me, but as everyone in the college as well. So, without further ado, let's start with the first question. So, I'd like to know what inspired you to pursue your career in finance and how did you started in this industry?
So when I was in college, then equity markets were just picking up, and I had started investing in equity markets. Very small sums. But being the inquisitive types, so we would try to find out what is happening. And then I actually took up a job in a news magazine also. So it was a Calcutta-based news magazine called Sunday, which was headed by a person called Veer Sanghvi. And he was my boss, and it was great fun to work with a newspaper. And since I had done economics, so I thought this is a good place where you can test your ideas. And one thing led to another. After my MBA, I wanted to join the financial markets. So that is how it started.
That's something inspiring story for everyone else present here. So moving on, what is the biggest challenge you have faced in your career till now, and how did you overcome it?
Well, the biggest challenge is, that, one, I used to have the misconception that if you do your work properly, you will be taken care of. And although I would say 60-70% that is true, but you live in a world full of people, and your people have egos, they are emotional, and sometimes the decision making is beyond just work orientation. So the mistake that I made probably was that I was always very work focused and not people focused at all. So I think in life you have to have a good balance between people focus, work focus, and so there has to be you have to be smart enough to take care of the egos around you of people. And now, of course, I have a very wide span where I manage a few people myself. And it does make a difference if you take into account the feelings of the person that is involved.
That's good, sir. So when talking about the misconception, like generally they have mostly have certain misconception about the finance industry. So I'd like to ask, like, how do you address such misconception leading to the finance industry right now?
So, what type of misconception are you talking? Give
About
me one example.
being the field being very hectic, like there might not be a work-life balance culture right now. So
So, I
most
think
people are
in any market, sorry, in any job that you do, or in any area that you want to become an expert in, there is difficult to find a work-life balance, right? There will be a phase in your life that you will focus more on work. Now, in financial markets, what happens typically is that you are either attached to the equity markets or the bond markets or the forex markets, which have a very specific period of time. So let's say the bond markets are open from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the evening. So then you have to be attuned towards what is happening in the bond market. And before that and after that, also you have to sort of keep your ears and eyes open for anything that might be changing in the global markets. So yes, I think financial markets are slightly more demanding, but I would say that we start our days early and tend to finish early. So probably our jobs are from 9 to 6. For people who are in advertising or marketing, they tend to start late and then they work later also. But I guess this is an individual's choice, and people can balance their work and life quite well depending on the priorities. But India is a country where there are a lot of people and there are fewer jobs. So if you want to perform well, if you want to overachieve, if you are slightly ambitious, then I think hard work is very important. And in the initial part of life, I think people tend to work a little harder than later.
I hope this will definitely clear some questions, like for someone like us who are just about to start the career in the finance industry. So moving
Sure.
on, sir. So what is your, I'd like to know, like, what is your take on the current evolving mutual fund industry?
Okay, so the mutual fund industry, which basically started with UTI long time back, and the private sector was allowed to get into the early 90s. For the first 10, 15 years, I think it was a struggle because people did not really understand, or very limited people understood what a mutual funds are. And of late, in the last 5, 10 years, with the digitization and with the more number of players coming in, investors are now able to understand the benefits of mutual funds. And even the smaller investors with as low as 100 rupees or 500 rupees are able to participate in mutual funds. So I think the awareness, the mutual fund industry body has taken up a huge advertising campaign called Mutual Fund Sahi Hai, which has increased the general awareness of mutual funds among people. And today, mutual funds manage about 46 lakh crores. So it's a huge amount of money, 46 lakh crores, right? And there are about 45 mutual funds. There are a number of mutual funds who have entered in the recent past and are also looking to, there are more number of mutual funds who are willing to, looking to enter into the industry. So the industry growth has been stupendous. It's been one of the fastest growing industry. And I think even the government is looking at this industry as an industry which is likely to mobilize savings from the common man and invest in such a way that it's utilized in a proper productive way. So very, very bright future for mutual funds, and the growth has been quite good in the last 5, 10 years.
That's something amazing and insightful for us, everyone. So moving on with the next questions. Can you just share a specific project or initiative you worked on that you are particularly proud of, and what impact did it have?
Okay, so while I had worked in a mutual fund from 2004 to 2008, 2002 to 2008 for 6, 7 years, but I was working mostly in a fixed income fund management role. And in the last 4, 5 years, I have set up the mutual fund for Trust Group, and this was a new initiative for the group. And in fact our programs got delayed because of COVID. And in spite of that, in the COVID, I was able to start the project. And I remember during the COVID times, I think we were busier than ever before. When meetings used to start at 9 o'clock in the morning and used to go out till 8 o'clock in the night. And in that period, we did a lot of spade work, and we set up the mutual fund. And as soon as COVID was over, we were able to launch our schemes. And today we have already covered, closed more than 2.5 years. And we are hiring very good people now. And we are looking towards a very strong future. So I think setting up the mutual fund, getting it off the block, was a great achievement or a great experience. And I was able to experience a lot more things like project management or people management and recruiting people, evaluating them, giving them work, making sure that the work is getting done. And it's like balancing a number of things. It's like being a conductor or the coach of a football team, that you have to manage very different things, and you have to make sure that everything goes on right. So that was a
That's
very great
definitely
learning experience.
that's definitely something unimaginable, but in a good way. So
Yes.
moving on. So I'd like to ask, like, according to you, what are the current market conditions that, and like, what are the major challenges and the opportunities your company has been facing recently?
I think the market conditions are in such a way that the inflation has been slightly high, especially in the US, and the US has been spending a lot of money to take out people from a possible slowdown. To avoid a slowdown, it has been giving out a lot of money and spending a lot, so which has increased their fiscal deficit, and inflation also has gone up. But equity markets have done very well in the last 7 years, and now we are at a situation where inflation is high and interest rates are being high, and one is not sure which way the markets will turn in the near future. So we are at a particular juncture where the markets could, correct over a period of time and not give the returns which they have been giving in the last few years. So our next challenge is to launch our equity funds, and probably we'll be doing that in the period Jan to March. So our challenge is to now launch a new series of funds, which will raise money from people and manage that, invest that in equity markets. So I think that is the biggest challenge for us right
Well, that's something huge coming from you. So moving on to the next part. So, as risk management is a very crucial aspect of financial industry. So how do you assess and mitigate risk within your mutual fund portfolios?
now. Risk management of late has become a far more wider term than only financial risk management. So, as the scope of the company's activities goes into multiple areas, the concept of risk management has seeped into all the areas. So, for example, operations, which means processing the different transactions that the company undertakes. There can be a lot of risks there also which have to be taken care of. There's a compliance risk management, there's investment risk management. Now, a lot of risk is, emanating from technology side, whether the data that you have is secure or not, whether you have cyber security, whether the data can get leaked out. So there's a lot of data related or information technology related risk management. So almost every department has a department of its own, and the risk management is done by monitoring what is going on and what can be done better. In terms of your question, in terms of portfolio management, so portfolios typically have you know two three types of risk. One is the risk of liquidity. So liquidity is defined as whether you can convert an asset into cash without losing a significant amount of value. So liquidity is a very important risk for fund managers. The other risk is whether you are able to beat inflation or not. So if you're not able to beat inflation, then that means you're not doing a good job of protecting the purchasing power of your investor. There could be other risks like overexposing yourself to a bad company which whose management is not good, or there could simply be the risk where the markets come down and one is not able to predict where the market goes. There are multiple risks, and the way we mitigate them is by having various risk parameters based on our experience, which tend to mitigate the risk. But I know most risks are inherent in the business of investing, and one cannot hedge them at all points of time.
That's something really insightful coming from you. So, as you know, this finance industry is evolving day by day and it's growing at a good pace. So, what trends do you see in the mutual fund industry in the coming years?
So I think the retail participation is going to increase even more. What happens is that any industry, if it goes through a good times, and if it's able to provide its customers with a good experience, then the industry grows quite rapidly. So what has happened in our industry is that last 6 7 years have been very good in terms of returns generated from the equity markets, and hence the investor base is growing very fast, and the corpus of the mutual funds is also growing very fast. I think challenge would be that, in case the equity markets don't perform for 1 or 2 years, then how to retain the investors and how to lower their expectations and ensure that they stay here for the longer term. Because in equity markets, the returns can be quite back-ended, and they can be quite bunched up in a few years. And there could be few years of underperformance. So I think investor education, in improvement in customer service, and managing the expectations of investors, I think is going to be a huge challenge.
So thank you for the resourceful thing you have been just saying to us. So moving on to the next question, what are
Yes.
the key performances or the metrics or benchmark that an investor should consider when evaluating the success of a mutual fund?
So I think first one should understand that what kind of investment requirements do they have. See, most investors should beat inflation comfortably to ensure that their purchasing power is retained. And when you are evaluating a mutual fund, typically one needs to look at, one is of course the returns in the past and the stability of the fund managers, the experience of the fund management team. What is the kind of volatility that your funds have experienced? Because there could be times when you want to withdraw the money, and if the fund is very volatile, that is not a good sign. You might not get a very good value for your returns. So I think quality of management, uh, the returns in the past, the rolling returns, the stagnancy, the retention of the team which are managing. These are some of the things one can look at.
That's something very insightful. So moving on. So what technology
Yes, yes.
and data analytics tools do you use to make informed investment decision and manage the portfolio effectively, like simultaneously?
So, many industries are such that in periods when one industry does well, the other industry, does not do so well. So, if you combine different stocks or different industries, you can increase the average expected returns and you can reduce the risk. So, I think a lot of work should be done in portfolio creation and to ensure that the combination of the stocks give you a portfolio whose risk return ratios are actually higher than the individual stocks. So I think that is one area which requires some amount of work in portfolio management. And in terms of most of the analysis that we do is fundamental analysis, where we look at the industry, we look at the macroeconomy, and then look at the individual company's performance in terms of financial and governance. So these are some of the things that we look at while investing.
That's something wonderful. So moving on, like what are the exciting developments you see in finance sector or finance industry as a whole right now or in the future as well? And how do you think they'll impact them in the future of finance?
So I think a lot of micro challenges which are there, in people's lives, I think they will be taken care of. So a lot of money is being available to entrepreneurs who want to solve some problem and which can help a lot of people in their financial journeys, whether it be banking or insurance or mutual funds. So while the sectors are quite regulated, and you have different regulators which makes things not very uniform, but I think a lot of activity in personal finance will be taken, wherein probably with a touch of button you can see that where your total portfolio lies, how much insurance you have, how much is in banks, how much you own credit cards, what kind of housing loan do you have, and you can probably project it in the future. So I think those kind of innovations, I think in personal finance are very likely. And that is possible with the help of technology and data integration and combination. So I think that should be happening in the near future.
So one last question will be here, sir. Like,
Yes, please.
what advice would you like to give to the MBA students who are interested in pursuing the career in finance and potentially working in the mutual fund industry as well?
So I think one should first be clear that in which field of finance you would want to work, whether you would be interested in banking or in giving loans or financial evaluation or equity markets or bond markets, whether you would want to work towards analysis or would you want to work towards sales. So once you get that, then I think try to get into that field as early as possible, because uh, every year that you spend away from that field will be a waste of time. So I think try to, suppose for example you want to get into forex management or in forex sales or forex trading, then try to get into that area very quickly. I think things are changing very fast. So the faster you are into that area, the better it is. So I think be resourceful. Now you have got tools like LinkedIn, so many other ways to reach the right people. And do not wait for your college to place you or your some HR consultant to place you. Reach out to the right people, and there is no replacement for reading and being aware. So I think keep your ears and eyes open and be the maker of your own destiny. And there are enough examples where people have taken things into their hand and reached out to people. And maybe out of 20 people that you reach out to, two or three will respond. And I think that will be good enough.
So I'd like to like take the meeting to an end by saying like thank you for this enlightening session. I had a lot of fun, and I'm sure that students like me also will have a lot of learn from this insightful session. Your story is completely inspiring and encouraging for everyone in the not only just our college and many other students who will definitely watch this podcast in the future as well. So thank you for having you us over here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
If you have any questions on the podcast video, please leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for much such videos. Also, for more corporate insights, you can visit our Instagram page mentioned in the description below. Till then, stay tuned for the episode 4.